Mercedes are about to find out whether the last 4 years were a painful education or simply a warning they failed to understand. Because in 2026, Formula One doesn't care about reputation, trophies, or history. It only cares about who learned the right lessons and who didn't. And here's the uncomfortable truth most fans don't want to hear. Mercedes' return to the top is not guaranteed. In fact, it's at risk before the lights even go out in Australia. Everyone keeps saying the same thing. New engine rules, hybrid reset, Mercedes dominance incoming. We've heard this story before, and yes, the evidence is tempting. Their facilities are world-class, their personnel are elite, and the last time power unit regulations were overhauled, Mercedes didn't just win, they rewrote the sport. But here's the question nobody wants to ask out loud. What if the 2026 regulations expose the very weaknesses Mercedes have been battling since 2022? Because while the paddock whispers about Mercedes being back on top, even Mercedes themselves aren't buying the hype. Toto Wolff has openly said he's never confident, and that's not false humility, that's institutional trauma. 4 years of chasing concepts that looked brilliant in simulation and fell apart on track will do that to you. Here's the first cold shower. The 2026 power unit split is roughly 50-50 between the internal combustion engine and electrical deployment. That means half the performance comes from systems no one fully understands yet. Not the fans, not the journalists, not even the engineers building them. Mercedes' own power unit chief has admitted they don't know exactly how much power they'll have when the season starts. So if Mercedes don't know, how does anyone else? Still, the rumour mill exists for a reason, and the rumours say Mercedes are strong, possibly very strong. They are believed to be one of only 2 manufacturers who've managed to exploit a higher than intended compression ratio within the new rules. If that's true, it's not illegal brilliance, it's classic Mercedes, finding performance where others see limits. But here's the first cliffhanger. Even if Mercedes have the best engine, that alone will not save them. Because Mercedes don't just need to beat Ferrari and Red Bull, they need to beat their own customers. McLaren, Williams, Alpine. And that's something Mercedes have struggled with when their chassis philosophy falls short. Engine advantage disappears very quickly when your own customers are matching or outperforming you on Sundays. This is where the fear kicks in. From 2022 to 2025, Mercedes were not just beaten, they were confused. The ground effect era exposed a fundamental issue in how they interpreted aerodynamic behavior, mechanical platform control, and correlation between simulation and reality. The infamous Zero side-pod car wasn't stupid, it wasn't lazy, it was bold, and in the simulator it looked unstoppable. On track, it bounced itself into irrelevance, and Mercedes didn't abandon it quickly. That's the key mistake. While others adapted, Mercedes doubled down, convinced the performance was in there. Toto Wolff later called those moments false dawns. Upgrades that looked like breakthroughs only to reveal new problems underneath. Miami 2022 gave hope. Spain reinforced belief. Brazil delivered a win. And each time Mercedes thought they'd cracked it, only to be punished later. Now here's the scary part for 2026. The tools, people, and processes building the new Mercedes car are largely the same ones that misread the ground effect rules. Yes, they've learned. Yes, they've improved. But learning and execution are not the same thing. And Formula One does not forgive slow realization. Starting a new regulation era badly is deadly. With cost caps and aerodynamic testing restrictions, you can't brute force your way out anymore. If your concept is wrong, you don't just lose time. You lose seasons. McLaren's recovery was the exception, not the rule. Mercedes know this. And that's why 2026 is terrifying for them. Here's a pattern interrupt because it matters. Finishing second twice in the Constructors' Championship is not a disaster. Unless you're Mercedes. Then it's a warning. And now we reach the second major lesson Mercedes must not repeat. Believing one change fixes everything. In the early ground effect years, Mercedes repeatedly convinced themselves they were one upgrade away from unlocking the car's true potential. They weren't. They were uncovering new weaknesses each time. Lower ride heights caused bouncing, higher ride heights killed downforce, stiffer floors cured porpoising but created instability. Flexible wings helped balance but exposed thermal and tyre issues. It became a game of whack-a-mole. Even their strongest resurgence in 2024, winning 3 of 4 races, turned out to be fragile. Rear tyre temperature control, narrow setup windows, a car that loved fast corners and hated slow ones, drivers forced to rotate the car with throttle, punishing the rears. And when they tried to push further in 2025 with suspension changes, they discovered too late that the upgrade was actually a downgrade. That's the nightmare scenario for 2026, because the new cars will again demand a perfect balance between aerodynamics, suspension compliance, and energy deployment. Get one wrong and everything else collapses. Mercedes cannot afford blind alleys this time. They must choose the right direction early and stick to it only if the data confirms reality, not fantasy. Quick pause. If you're still watching, you're clearly deep into F1 suffering like the rest of us. Hit subscribe now. It's free, unlike Mercedes' wind tunnel bill from 2022. And drop a like if you enjoy watching billion-dollar teams overthink themselves into trouble. Now let's talk about adaptability, the lesson Mercedes half learned. Early in the ground effect era, Mercedes refused to copy rivals. The philosophy was noble. Championships aren't won by copying. And that's true, but refusing to adapt at all is just arrogance in disguise. Mercedes eventually softened. They switched suspension layouts. They moved cockpit positions. They abandoned zero side pods. But each time, they arrived late. For 2026, adaptability will decide everything. The cars will look different at launch, then they will converge rapidly. The team that adapts fastest without losing direction wins. Mercedes claim they've learned this. The question is whether they act on it when it matters, because this time the reset is deeper. The underfloor is different. Ride heights will rise, the step plane returns. Ground effect still matters, but not in the same violent way. That should suit Mercedes. On paper. George Russell has even admitted the team feels relief at the clean slate. But relief doesn't win championships. Execution does. And here's the final cliffhanger before the payoff. If Mercedes pair a genuinely strong power unit with a chassis that finally behaves predictably across conditions, they could be terrifying. Not just quick, dominant. The knowledge they've accumulated through failure is enormous. Every mistake analysed, every process reviewed, every assumption questioned. But F1 has a cruel sense of irony. Sometimes teams learn the right lessons and apply them to the wrong problem. So here's the verdict. Mercedes' 2026 gamble is not about whether they can build a fast engine. It's about whether they can trust reality over simulation, whether they can resist false dawns, whether they can adapt without panicking, whether they can commit without being stubborn. If they succeed, the paddock may witness the beginning of another silver era. If they fail, it won't be because they lack talent. It will be because they learned the wrong lessons from the past. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Mercedes really fixed their core problems? Or are we about to watch history repeat itself in a new form? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see how this Mercedes gamble collides directly with Ferrari's all-in engine strategy for 2026, click the next video on your screen right now. That battle could decide the next decade of Formula One.